You looking to get out of debt? Good. Debt is bondage. It keeps you in balls and chains and handcuffs, and you gotta get out of it. Today's video is all about a debt payoff strategy comparing the debt snowball with the debt avalanche. Which debt payoff strategy should you use? Which one's gonna work best? Which one have I used to get out of $92,000 in debt? That all and more coming up soon. Let's get started. My name is Bob, and I am the guy that got out of $92,000 in debt, and I help people just like you do the same thing. Crush debt, build wealth, live your ultimate sweet life. You have a debt snowball, you have a debt avalanche. And we're gonna talk specifically today about consumer debt. Consumer debt are things such as credit cards, auto loans, personal loans, 401k loans, dumb loans, student loans, etc., etc. Everything except for the mortgage. Now the mortgage is addressed a little bit later, especially if you follow the Dave Ramsey program. Mortgage is in baby step 6 in Dave Ramsey's Baby Steps program. According to last year's 2019 consumer debt study done by Experian, the average American has personal debt of $90,460. And guys, did you know, based on that study done by Experian, millennials are actually the ones with the highest debt growth rate? That kind of does make sense, but millennials, listen, you don't want to be like everybody else. You want to be better than that. You want to get yourself out of debt, because guess what happens when you're out of debt? Your wallet contains these beauties. Not only the money, but you're also going to feel free. Think about this for a second, guys. If you're out of debt and something bad happens, like you get laid off, it's not the end of the world, because guess what? You're financially independent. You own your life. You don't owe anything to anybody. So when it comes down to getting ready to pay off your debt with any one of these programs, Debt Snowball or Debt Avalanche, here's what you need to do. List down all of your consumer debt. So everything except for the mortgage. What I'm going to do to compare this is I'm going to give you the average debts that consumers typically carry, and then we're going to arrange them based on the avalanche method and the snowball method, and then I'll explain throughout that what these strategies do so you can make the best decision on what method is going to work best for you. So right over here on the board, let's talk about listing out the average debts of America. So auto loan, $19,231 at an interest rate of 5.27%. Then we're going to put a student loan of $35,620 with a 4.45% interest rate. Credit card, $6,194 at 16% interest rate, and a personal loan of $28,259 at 9.41%. So that's what you do. That's the step one in either one of these programs, listing out all the debt that you own. So what you want to do is put together whatever your list is. It may not look like this, that's okay. List it all out. Now the avalanche, my friend, is all about paying off the highest interest rate first, because the theory is you're getting plagued by a lot of interest payments and you're paying a ton of money every single month in interest. So get rid of the highest interest rate first, so that way you stop paying excess money that you don't need to pay. The snowball method, on the other hand, does not focus on the highest interest rate. The snowball method focuses on paying the smallest debt first. And there's a reason for that I'll explain in just a moment. But let's first arrange our calculations here in the mix of the avalanche program. So the first thing you're going to have that you're going to pay off first is your credit card. Why? That is the highest interest rate of 16%. The second thing you're going to pay off is that personal loan, which is 9.41%, followed up by the auto loan at 5.27%, and lastly the student loan at 4.45%. So that is the avalanche method. Now the snowball method, smallest to largest, it doesn't change much in our example except for two. You're still going to list the credit card as number one, then you're going to list the auto loan as number two, which is a little bit different, so we're moving things around here. Number three would be the personal loan, and number four would be the student loan. Again, smallest debt to largest debt. So let's get rid of all this for a second, and let me just talk to you for a second. Why continue to watch this video? Because it kind of makes sense. Why wouldn't you want to pay the highest interest rate first? It does make a lot of sense, but what we actually find is that people get burned out. There's a lot of times, and especially this is kind of a poor example that I use today. Let's say you have loads of debt. You're up to debt to your eyeballs. It's terrible. Well, that's okay, but here's the issue. If you're only focused on the highest interest rate, and that is the largest loan that you have, and meanwhile you have all these other small little debts, because you're focused on the highest interest rate, it's just gonna feel like it takes forever to accomplish anything. Whereas the snowball, because it lists your debt smallest to largest, this is what I was mentioning earlier, it gets a little bit more exciting. It keeps motivation going when times are tough. A great example is, let's say you have a tiny little bit of credit card debt of only $100. And then you have the next debt, let's say it's a small little auto loan of $1,000. Well, what you'd have to do is you pay off that credit card, but check it out, guess what? You get excited about the fact that, hey, I just slammed a debt. It's out of my life. I can move on to the next thing. And the reason it's called a snowball, it now accumulates additional payment because what you were throwing at the first debt can now be taken and applied to the second debt. Once you pay off the second debt, you can take all that money you were throwing plus the money from the first debt and now attack the third debt. And that's why it keeps accumulating and it's a snowball. You know, I should really have a snowball for today's demonstration. I don't know if you know this, but I live in Florida and the last time I saw snow was never. I'm sorry, I let you down. I've got to find some snow. So while mathematically you might think, well, the avalanche makes a lot more sense mathematically, motivation-wise, the snowball actually gets you more fired up. And for me, getting out of $92,000 in consumer debt, I used the debt snowball. And I gotta be honest with you, a long time ago, I used the avalanche. I was trying to attack this high interest payment. But again, it was just like I mentioned earlier, I didn't really have that sense of motivation because it felt like it was gonna take forever to get out of debt. But when I started Dave Ramsey's program of the debt snowball, smallest to largest, that feeling you get when you pay off that first debt is just so invigorating that you're like, wait a minute, I can actually do this. And now I'm just gonna attack. And then before you know it, you look back and you're like, I'm out of debt. And that feeling, my friends, is so freaking awesome. You can do it. And this is what helped me get out of that debt, build an emergency fund. Right now, we're actually looking at paying off our home mortgage. So once you get out of consumer debt, you can focus on bigger things. A life without a mortgage payment will be completely mind-blowing. So subscribe today to follow my journey because I'm going to be giving you guys personal finance tips, but also personal finance updates on our debt-free journey so that you can follow along. And throughout that time, I'm going to let you know the struggles, the failures, and the wins all throughout the video here on this channel. Today, you can apply either one of these debt payoff strategies. I recommend the snowball, but either one, you can start today. And I recommend you should start today. Smash that like button if you found value in today's video. Comment below and let me know what debt payoff strategy are you going to use. And most importantly, as always, continue to live your sweet life because you're worth it. Have an awesome day, and we'll see you next time.